Scumbags, ladies, gentlemen, welcome to I Rebel. And you know what this is? This is victory. That's what victory tastes like. If you recall, last week, James and I had a little friendly bet where I bet that we would see Saw Gerrera and Two Tubes in this episode, and he bet me an apple that we wouldn't. How's that lack of apples tasting, James?
Right after we made that bet. By the way, I said that I suspected we would see them, but right after we made that friendly bet, the promo came out for this episode, which showed us, I'm taking a picture for the Apple Instagram, which showed us Saw Gerrera in the episode. So congratulations on winning this bet. I'm glad you had an apple because I could not deliver you an apple. No, I gave you that apple. That is from me. I picked that at a farm in Caledon. For those of you that don't know what Caledon is, which is probably everybody watching this, it is a farming community of sorts. I don't know. It's like there's a lot of farms and horses there. The most horses in Canada are in that area, FYI.
James is being humble, folks. He actually has his own orchard, and he went out this morning and plucked this from a branch just for me.
It's true, I did. I made sure there's a worm in it, so enjoy that. It's like tequila.
Ooh, that's what that was. So,
all right, let's talk about this episode.
Let's talk about Star Wars Rebels. Yeah, last night was In the Name of the Rebellion, parts 1 and 2. It wasn't a Uwe Boll directed piece like I was kind of hoping and praying it would be. That was In the Name of the King. I tend to mix those up. But we got, I believe, a great 2-part episode, greater than Heroes of Mandalore. You feel
100% agreed. 100% agreed. I don't want the hate mail, but I agree.
We both kind of felt last week that as much fun as we had with Heroes of Mandalore, it did not feel like a season premiere, especially not a last season premiere. This felt like a season premiere. This felt like everybody's coming together and stuff is going to go down now. And we're getting closer and closer to A New Hope. We got Yavin 4 for the first time on the show. The Rebels are there. Hera has mentioned that Phoenix Squadron, what's left of it after the attack with Thrawn, has basically merged with all the folks here on Yavin. So now the rebellion is really just one cohesive thing now. Cells are kind of a thing of the past, except where Saw Gerrera is concerned. Now, the first thing I wanted to bring up is that when our heroes land on Yavin 4 at the beginning of this episode, they meet up with Zeb and then Hera, who were there on Yavin. Zeb was totally absent from last week, by the way. One of my notes from Heroes of Mandalore was where the actual F is Zeb. So I'm glad we got to see Zeb. But there's a question that I'm not sure what the answer is to. Maybe you know, James, or maybe somebody out there watching knows, is that it seems to me when they landed on Yavin and they met up with Zeb and then they met up with Hera, it seems like a lot of time has passed since they last saw each other in person. And I was trying to figure out how long it's been in their world since the end of 3 and the beginning of 4.
There has to be a lot of time because Zeb, Callus, that's like their home. Yavin is now their home. You could tell they've settled in there. Callus has moved up the ranks on the Rebel Alliance. He's the one that tells them they have a message from Mon Mothma. You wouldn't really get a lag. Well, maybe you would, but I feel like he's a little bit higher up. So this is the question I have. Again, I posed this last week, was why were the Heroes of Mandalore, we saw it way, way back at Star Wars Celebration. Why was this not treated like the Siege of Lothal and made like a quote-unquote movie like they did way, way back in between seasons 1 and seasons 2? I feel like if they would have done that, if we would have got this in June, then used these 2 episodes, and then just been like, this season is only going to be this short. And then, you can still throw that on last week if you want it. But this was the beginning of the season for me. And I feel, and it appears like everybody that was in the Heroes of Mandalore, all the characters, Ezra, Sabine, Kanan, were not on Yavin at all. Like, they've never been on Yavin. I mean, Ezra pretty much says, "Look at this. This is crazy." So, but season 3 ended with "Let's go to Yavin," and then all of a sudden they decided to go to Mandalore just to, I suppose, just to kind of finish that story arc, I guess. But I still feel like that it would have been more powerful if that was a film summer, June, July. 2 parts of Rebels, enjoy it, blah, and then started it with this, because then the time that you just mentioned would actually feel like time has passed.
Yeah, that everything. Now that I've seen this in the Name of the Rebellion, I feel like Heroes of Mandalore, because of how out of left field it was. It feels like it was originally meant to be some like 5-issue comic run to tide us over between seasons, and it's like this happened. And then we get our premiere. Like, that's what it felt like, because it was so, you're right, like, let's go to Yavin, end season 3, and then start season 3 with us just on Mandalore for some reason. But I'm glad we got Yavin. I'm glad we got this 2-parter, because In the Name of the Rebellion was spectacular. Guess what? We have a new planet. We have new planet number 29. I think it's pronounced Jalindi or Jalandi. I heard they said it in 2 different ways. Ezra called it Jalandi, and then the Imperials called it Jalindi. So pick your poison, tomato, tomato. And then we saw the return of one of my favorite tertiary characters on Rebels, my boy Brom Titus, and his wonderful sideburns. He was the one a few episodes back where I was talking about somebody with sideburns and I couldn't get their name, and you were like, "Is it Constantine?" I'm like, No. Constantine ain't got nothing on these sideburns, but I couldn't recall the name. It was Brom Titus. He is keeping the 70s alive. God bless him. But he's dead now. He died.
He got smoked.
Yeah, they and it was Saw Gerrera who he blew up the dish and he blew up his ship. And I have a note here. I said, first Panaka, now Brom Titus. Saw keeps killing the people that I love. So thank you, Saw. And we also got somebody you love. We got a 2 tubes.
We got Tommy 2 tubes, Edrio 2 tubes. Take a bite. Yeah, he was in it. We got and the other thing, one of my favorite ships, the U-Wing. I absolutely love the U-Wing. We did a top 5 ships. When was it? It was a while ago. Rebel ships, I think it was. Like a year ago, I want to say. Maybe January, February, March, April, somewhere. And U-Wing I think it was like number 3 on my list. I absolutely love the U-Wing. I think it looks great. And 2 tubes flying it, I was like, I'm all in. Gary Whitta wrote this episode. And I have to say, I think Gary Whitta, I think he has a crush on Wedge. Because the way it started with, Wedge, you were the greatest pilot of all time. Wedge, you are the best, Wedge. And he wrote the Wedge episode in season 3 as well. So I just want to tweet at him and find that out. Because I don't know what the point of the beginning. Wedge, you're really great. You're going to survive the trilogy, bro. That's what I felt like I was saying. But, he wrote this, 2 tubes, Saw. It was, he didn't really do much. He saved the day, obviously. He came in, swooped in, grabbed them. But, I love 2 tubes. It was great seeing him again.
And a funny thing I noticed about the U-Wing that I think was a neat little detail. In Rogue One, Jyn is not a rebel. She's with Saw's people for a while, and then she's just kind of like a space hobo. So she's not, the rebels' ships and equipment and stuff isn't something she'd be familiar with. But if you notice in Rogue One, when she gets on the U-Wing and K2SO is in there, she seems very comfortable and familiar with the layout of a U-Wing. Like, she just pops on, she puts like her bag over her shoulder and she sits down, buckles in. Like, she doesn't look like she needs to acclimatize herself to the ship. And now we see that Saw and 2 tubes are using U-Wings in their little cells. So that was a cool little touch. It's like, yeah, she probably has been in a U-Wing before through Saw's people. They probably commandeered U-Wings in the past.
Yeah.
So that was a neat little touch. And yeah, you're right. I like seeing the U-Wing. And I also like seeing the TIE Defenders, because we got 2 more. They're scary, those. What's frightening is that they are now more standard issue than they were last season. Thrawn is starting to produce them on a bigger level. Last year it was just that ace pilot guy who was flying one around, but now it's becoming more of a thing. And they had to fly through mist to shoot them down. That was an intense scene. But the most intense scene, at least in part 1 for me, was the conversation that we had between Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma. What did you think of that? It was something that was needed, obviously. It was something that we knew was coming. I would really be interested in seeing more of their relationship fall apart in, I guess, a book or something where you could kind of see where they started, maybe side by side, and then you see Saw go here and Mon go there. I call her Mon, but just to see that, because I really liked that. I really liked how I love the line, we're both criminals. At least I act like one. Like that kind of showed Saw is exactly what he is described as. He's an extremist, and Mon Mothma is like, we need peace. And then obviously the thing that's really cool is when you watch this, and obviously the aftermath of all of this is you go, well, she kind of has to go Saw's route on this, and reluctantly, and it takes a few rebels to rebel against the rebellion to do so. Oddly enough, it takes one that was, kind of raised by Saw Gerrera to even kind of stay at the forefront of that. So I kind of like when that's in the back of your mind and you see all this play out, you're like, oh, she's trying for the right thing, and he's saying this, and it really is when the two sides meet and they see each other's points. That's really the culmination of it. Rogue One really is about that. It's about the two sides coming together and realizing what needs to be done. And war is inevitable when you have an emperor taking over an entire galaxy. Yeah, you're right. It's a great little. We've never seen in the movies, at least, conflict within the rebellion. So it's great to see just how scary that can be when you're trying to fight this monstrous regime. But meanwhile, the person standing beside you has a different idea of how to do it. I'm not going to lie. I have a little bit of a crush on Genevieve O'Reilly, who plays Mon Mothma. So throughout this whole episode, just hearing her voice, I was like, oh, gee.
I want to do a show called Who Doesn't Andrew Have a Crush On?
That's right.
That would be a 13-second show.
13-second show. It's only Wedge. Sorry, Gary Whitta. And
Gary Whitta's on the other. He's like, why Wedge, man?
So I was like giddy as hell during that whole conversation. And what a testament to Mon Mothma, because as she's standing out there in front of the temple, I was thinking, if I put myself in her shoes right now, you know what's terrifying? A giant hologram of a man yelling down at you. That would make
Forrest Whitaker, a giant hologram of Forrest Whitaker yelling down.
Yeah.
At you. That's terrifying.
Like, I would flinch at that. I'd be like, huh. But she stood there, hands behind her back, just staring up at him, like one eyebrow raised, like, what do you want, Saw? And she basically told him to his very enlarged face, I'm not like you. And they had this great little just verbal sparring. I loved it. That was like my favorite moment of this whole 2-part episode that we got. And we got to hear Saw's laugh a little bit more. God, I love that laugh. I want to get like that just does that when I press a button.
Pull the string. You know what? I gotta flash forward here because the second part. Was the second part or the first part? The second part when we got the Death Troopers. In Rogue One, the Death Troopers' dialogue is muddled so that we cannot understand what they're saying. And in this, they were speaking clear as day English. Now, I would suppose that's because it's a cartoon.
I think so.
Because I feel like any other time, even with Tubes, they were very precise on what he says, so that you didn't need subtitles to understand him saying, "Yeah, sounds good." So I think if this was a film, I don't think we would have gotten English out of them, and I think it would have been or whatever they do.
Yeah, I like the Rogue One style where it's like you really don't know. They're just like and like because it's so much more alien than just when a stormtrooper is speaking to you. I thought maybe what they were doing was the whole thing where it's like because the Death Troopers I don't think we ever hear them speak to the rebels. When we hear them speak, it's only to each other. So maybe it's like they're garbled, but we're just hearing what they're supposed to hear because they can understand each other. You know what I mean? It's like
And they do because it's anime.
It's a stretch, but that might be what they were up to. FYI, like that whole, I wrote down here, I have never been more genuinely frightened during Rebels than I was at that moment where Sabine opened that door and there was just Death Troopers behind it. I was like, oh snap. Brock, you told me Brock had this really cool theory about the Death Troopers. You want to tell the folks what it was? Because I really liked it.
He likes to consider them the angels of death. Whenever a stormtrooper shows up, someone's going to die. And it's holding true because your boy Bronchitis died. I call him Bronchitis.
Bronchitis.
Because he died, though. Somebody always dies when a Death Trooper shows up.
That's true. And the commander in that whole Death Trooper scene was voiced by Jennifer Hale. I love you, Jennifer. She was Knights of the Republic fans out there. She was the voice of Bastila. So Jennifer Hale is an old hand in the Star Wars universe too. She's in like everything that needs voice actors. Like it's her agent is incredible. Now this feels like the beginnings of.
Oh, sorry, Knights of the Old Republic. I think today or tomorrow I read is going to become backwards compatible on your Xbox One. Just throwing it out there. You'll be able to play
on my Xbox One.
Yeah, if you put in your Xbox disc in there, apparently, from what I'm hearing, Side Akbar, that today or tomorrow it will be backwards compatible. So I don't have an Xbox One or the game, so it doesn't affect me whatsoever. But if you have either of those, you'll be able to play it.
I love when things are backwards compatible. I love that. I hate anything becoming obsolete. So that's great. Keep it up. Make everything backwards compatible. I feel like we're getting really close in terms of Saw and Ezra and their whole relationship to Ezra possibly changing his mind about the rebellion and possibly being that guy with the black mask that we see in Rogue One.
It felt like it was going there, but then the way it ends, you feel like it went right back to... Which is the thing with Rebels that drives me nuts, with Ezra especially, as Season 3 starts. Oh, he's going to be flirting with the dark side all season. Nope, never. Now it's like, oh, he's going to be flirting with Saw Gerrera's separate... nope, no, it doesn't matter. You know, it's like, oh, Ezra, make up your mind. He's so flip-floppy.
Yeah, you're right. It looked like it was going to flip-flop again, but I think this time, they're keeping it open because you're right, he didn't end well with Saw. Like he was pissed. He's like, yo, why did you stun me? What's wrong with you? And then Saw just runs off. But there was a moment after everything was said and done, and Ezra kind of looked back at everything that had happened, and he's like, you know what? I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, Saw got results. We just blew up a Star Destroyer because of him. We kept that Kyber out of Imperial hands. That was a big-ass Kyber crystal. Like, that thing was massive. So he is aware that Saw's tactics got them where they were. That and Saw saved their lives. So I still think it's a possibility. In Season 3, you're right. At this point in Season 3, I was like, okay, he's not turning to the dark side. He's already conquered that fear in like 2 seconds. But in the case of this, I feel like Saw is still the wild card here, and he still has more influence over Ezra.
Yeah, as long as he comes back.
Yeah, as long as he comes back and
see, I would love it if Ezra became that black scout trooper in it. I don't want him to end there. I want that to be a pit stop for Ezra. I think that would be so cool. And now it's like, because like that black scout trooper, like he does nothing. He just looks cool in the background. He turns his head and gets a close up for like half a second. And if you're like, just so you know, Ezra on his journey ends there, but then he could leave. Like he doesn't have to stay on Jeddah for the death of it. Like, he could take off like right after that moment. He can be like, okay, I have to go tell Kanan or I have to go tell Hera what's going. Maybe he's a spy for Mon Mothma and stuff to see what's going on with Saw. Maybe he's the one that gets the intel of where Saw is that Mon Mothma uses to tell Jin or blah 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 blah. I don't know how that works. Can't remember. But you know what I mean? Like there's a point in being there. But now that I say, maybe it doesn't make sense because they don't know where Saw is in Rogue One. They need Jin to find Saw, or they've located Saw, but they need Jin to talk to him because she's the only one he'll trust.
Yeah, they need her. She's because they won't listen. Saw won't listen to anybody Mon Mothma sends, which was made clear in this episode. Like,
so maybe. So yeah, I don't know how it would work if that was Ezra now. You know what?
There to sort of keep an eye on things. Like, let's send Jin. We've also sent Cassian though, and he is a very he's a hardcore rebel. So in case things go south and Saw's people open fire on my people, Ezra, I want you there with a lightsaber to back Cassian up. And
then when they leave, he leaves.
Yeah.
Boom. All of a sudden, nothing matters. You still have to figure out how to get Ezra out of the show or not be a Jedi anymore. But whatever. I think it could work. I think, we've said it before on this show that anything you want could be possible, and you can explain it simplistically all the time.
Exactly.
I won't be disappointed if he's not that black scout trooper, though. I will say that.
I know, same. I keep forgetting to check. One of these days, I don't want to leave camera now and do it, but one of these days I'm going to check my Rogue One book to see if that guy has a name in it or not, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't. Which means it could.
And then they re-released the Rogue One book, and they're like, Ezra Bridger turned his head.
But in the re-release, it still doesn't mention Bo Gullet.
Yeah, no.
There is something happened in the Name of the Rebellion Part 2 that I might get some flack for saying this, but a lot of people. Even ourselves at some point, I think we've all said this to one another over the course of this show. A lot of people sometimes would ask me, because I write a lot, I do a lot of stuff, and like I've mentioned before, I've been rewriting episode 1 and 2 just for fun. People have asked me, what would you change about the original trilogy if you could change stuff? And usually, I'd be like, I'd leave the vast majority of it alone. Maybe I would change 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, whatever. But then something hit me during this episode that I thought, God, that would have been really cool. So tell me what you think of this. And if you hate it, I totally understand. What if in the whole original trilogy, this whole idea of the Death Star being a complete mystery to almost the entire universe was a running factor throughout? And what I mean by that is, because I love this whole idea of these characters don't know the Death Star is a thing yet, but they're starting to put 2 and 2 together. We've seen that on Rebels. We see pieces of that in books and comics and whatnot. So imagine if in A New Hope, it was just like this, rebels running around doing rebel things, except the Death Star is not known to them at all. Or us, the audience. We just hear about this rumored weapon. At the end of Empire Strikes Back, we see this weapon for the first time. It's real, and it blows up a planet. And then at the end of Jedi, the rebels take it out. Instead of revealing it and blowing it up all in one movie and then bringing it back again to blow it up again. What do you think of that?
No, I think this is exactly what I hated about Starkiller based in The Force Awakens. Like, when A New Hope was made, it wasn't A New Hope, it was Star Wars. And Star Wars was a one-off. Yeah, George Lucas wanted to do more and blah, blah, Splinters of the Mind's Eye and blah, 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 blah. He had 9 episodes written, blah, 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 blah. It was one movie. So everything that happened in that movie was self-contained. Vader gets, he was smart at not killing Vader, but he kind of does at the same time. He spins away and you're like, oh, Vader's gone. And, everyone blows up and the bad guys are all gone. And yeah, there's Tarkin has that throwaway line about the Emperor dissolved the Senate and blah, 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 blah. The problem with Starkiller Base is, you're making at least 3 more of these things. It's a whole friggin', aside from it being a planet, which is dumb to blow up. But, I mean, if you're not, obviously, the Death Star, how can you just blow up a planet that simply? But that was my one problem with The Force Awakens was why blow it up? Why be like, we have this super weapon, just destroy it. Now, I know there's going to be consequences in Last Jedi from that, and repercussions of that. But I mean, they did the same thing with Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, where like, they blew up Metropolis, so then Batman versus Superman, they have to spend an hour explaining why that was bad. If you just don't do those things to begin with, you don't have to retcon it and clean it up later. You could just move on. If Starkiller Base was still around and they're like, this is still a threat out there, maybe they damage it. They could damage it all they want. Don't blow up the planet. So, I'm fine with the other thing with the original trilogy is if you blow up the Death Star in the first one, they just magically have a second Death Star ready to go. I think it could easily be retcon that the second Death Star is actually being built around the time of the first Death Star as well. I mean, that's the way to do it. But I don't have a problem with that necessarily, except you'll need a new ending for A New Hope. Because the medal ceremony, Chewbacca still has to get screwed over by that. So you'll need that. I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, that was for all of its flaws and for all of its greatness, for me, the biggest blunder in The Force Awakens was Starkiller Base. And I don't really like Rey just knowing how to use the Force, which obviously they're going to expand on that as well. But the Starkiller Base thing is like, I get George Lucas. He had one movie. You've got 3. And a planet. Anyway.
Instead of Starkiller Base, it would have been neat to have, because you're right, we have repercussions coming in Last Jedi, and I think the most important of those repercussions is that there's no more New Republic Senate, and there's no more New Republic fleet. And I think if that's the end game right now, is to get rid of the Senate and the fleet, a cooler way to do that instead of a super weapon would have been like have it like Godfather style, where there's a bunch of First Order like suicide bombers undercover in like the capital ships and where the Chancellor is and everything. And at that moment where Hux makes his speech, he just turns on like a walkie-talkie or whatever, and he's like, "Go!" And then you see,
or not even just during his speech, you just see people going to like this. But I think the problem with that is they were trying to stay away from like Hosnian Prime. We saw like the outside. When I first saw it, did I tell you? When I first saw it, I thought they blew up Coruscant, and I was like, "That is ballsy." And then of course it was Hosnian Prime, which was like I think it would have been so much more impactful if it was Coruscant. It would have sucked, but it would have been like, oh, damn. Yeah. Yeah, I think that idea would have been so much better. I just think Starkiller Base, like I said, for all its greatness and flaws, the laziest aspect of The Force Awakens, and I don't like this. I will say is lazy was Starkiller Base. Just, the Rey thing I don't like, but I won't call that lazy so much. I'll just say it's Star Wars. Starkiller Base was lazy. Brock calls it Murder Planet. I think Kevin Smith called it so Murder Planet. Like it's just like you like that. I don't call Force Awakens a rehash of A New Hope, but that is a rehash of A New Hope. Like that one aspect is totally like you couldn't come up with something else that's been done twice already. It's been done twice. Why are we getting on this? I like your idea. Yeah, because then you make it a bigger thread, and which your idea now is kind of what's been playing out through Rogue One and Rebels. Now is it's lasting longer than just an hour and whatever, 2 hours. So it's kind of playing out, and I think had George Lucas known he would be able to make more than one, maybe he would have kept the Death Star going. But also. I'm rambling. But also the other thing is that the Death Star ultimately is the villain of A New Hope. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could last 3 movies. Why not?
Yeah, and I like I said, I really love the idea of this weapon being a mystery and a reveal. Because we like the Death Star itself in A New Hope, like you said, he didn't know he was making 3, so he just here's the Death Star. All of a sudden, we just have a scene where it's like, oh, here's a thing now. But imagine like going up like almost 2 whole movies with just like rumors that there is a thing out there, and then at the end of Empire, one of our main heroes is on Alderaan, and then here comes the thing, and we're like, oh my God, that looks like that could be the thing, and then boom, Alderaan's gone, and you got to come back 3 years later to see them finally blow up the thing. That would have been neat. But that sort of came to me from watching this because I really enjoy I enjoy seeing Rebels try to figure out what the Empire's building. It's such an ominous thing when you just hear like the Empire's building something. They keep stealing engineers and they keep taking crystals for something, and we want to find out what it is. That just kind of gives me goosebumps because it's like, oh shit, it's bad is what it is. Yeah, but that's In the Name of the Rebellion, parts 1 and 2. I really hope next week they give us another 2 in a row. I don't think they will, but
no, they've announced. Well, it was never scheduled to be like that, and they kind of, for some reason, just announced that they weren't doing any more 2 in a row. I don't know why they announced it, since on the schedule it always said after the. I think the rest are just single part. One part we didn't touch on was when Hera was flying the ship and Kanan was giving her directions. I thought that was. It was cool to see that. I really enjoyed that. And I don't know, Kanan, is he going soon?
Yeah, man, I hope not. I like him, but I'm still, my money's still on Mortis. Mortis is still. Nothing has deterred me from thinking that Mortis could not show up at some point down the road, and we still have Ahsoka to worry about. So I think it's very early to say, but God, I wish we were getting 2 in a row again, because the thought of just like a 20-minute thing is just like, oh, it's so short. But we'll see what happens. What's the next one called again in the Rebel Fun? For the episode.
I actually don't know.
It's called Saw's Laugh, the episode.
It's called More Lies. Here we go. So I'm looking at the titles now. We have, hold on. Heroes of Mandalore, Name of the Rebellion, Part 1 and 2, and The Occupation. So this tells me that the Ezra and the Ghost Crew are called back to Lothal when a new Imperial threat rises. So I guess Lothal isn't under Imperial occupation yet? I thought it was.
I thought it was too. Maybe that's what they're talking about. What's this new threat they're talking about? That's interesting.
Look, Andrew, I don't know. I didn't write this episode, okay?
What if I'm gonna say something crazy right now? I don't know what this apple is laced with, but it's giving me a lot of chutzpah right now. What if this new threat is Gallius Rax?
Yeah. No. Who's Cicatro Vizago? Oh, Vizago. His first name is Cicatro. How do you pronounce that? Vizago's back next week, guys. Vizago's back. Yeah. Actually, he's in the trailer. If you look briefly, you see him come in. I like that I had to read his name phonetically to figure out who he was. Those are the only characters. You want me to tell you the characters next week? Ezra Bridger, Kanan, Jarrus, Sabine Wren, Harrison Dula, Zeb, and Vizago. Imperial Star Destroyer, Sea Rock, Gonzalez class cruiser, and the Broken Horn, and it all takes place apparently on Lothal. So apparently it premiered on Disney ABC Press September 27th. So critics have seen it. Yeah.
I hope Thrawn is back next week then, because we really have been light on Thrawn. 4 episodes and he's had 1 scene.
Well, I don't. The thing is, it's 4 episodes, but it's really only been 2 because they've been treating them like 2 episodes, and he's only been seen for 10 seconds. Look, the character list says he's not on here, and you figure since critics have already seen it and whatnot, he would be. But he might be. Who knows? Next is Flight of the Defender. See, this one has no character breakdowns or anything. So, Thrawn is in it. There you go. Ezra and Sabine steal an Imperial prototype TIE fighter, but must rely on some unexpected help to escape from Thrawn. That's in 2 weeks. So, that's almost the halfway mark. That's episode 6. Like, we're almost halfway through the series now. So, it's looking good. I can't wait. I mean, I don't want it to end, but the thing is, when something ends, it's good. Like, it's good. It's story. You finish the story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I know.
Then we get to see what's up next. Something else is coming.
Yeah, the Gallius Rax show. Gallius Rax and Saw Gerrera share an apartment, and it's like the Odd Couple. And Saw's really messy, but he laughs a lot. And and Gallius is really clean, but he's sort of like a straight man, no sense of humor, and the two of them clash, and hilarity ensues. And the whole laugh track is just people going. You heard it here first. So that's I Rebel. That's In the Name of the Rebellion, parts 1 and 2. James, where can everybody find you when you're not rebelling?
Find me on Twitter, Instagram, and on PS4, where you can kick my butt at Battlefront. At Battlefront 2, November 14th, I think, is when you get the 3-day early access. I think is the 14th, and I'm going to be getting it then, so you can kick my butt. Have fun. People have been. It's great. And also, tomorrow's Wednesday, the 65th episode of the Rebel Scum podcast is up. It is our Halloween episode. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be extra scary. So if you have young kids watching, they'll be fine. And yeah, that's everything. And then this Saturday, I should be doing a review of Red Harvest and Death Troopers for the High Ground. Those are the 2 horror novels about Star Wars. They're pretty cool too. It's Halloween week. Why not? We'll have fun.
Woo! And you can find me in James's orchard, pilfering all of his produce. You can't kick my butt at Battlefront because I don't have it, but in about 6 days, you can kick my butt at Mario Odyssey because I just pre-ordered a Switch.
They can't because it's not 2-player.
Exactly. That's the trick, isn't it? So you can play Mario Odyssey and you can pretend you're kicking my butt at it, but
you should get Battlefront and we should have a Rebel Scum podcast group.
A group. Oh, you can make groups on that game.
Well, we could all be on a team.
I see.
Yeah.
Or we should do like.
Now we could play like the Collider guys.
Oh, that'd be.
We should play the Rebel Watch guys. We should get on with them and be like, "Yo, we'll have a team up, us versus you." Or we could just join forces with them. Whatever. Just get it so we can all play. We'll have a Rebel Scum. We'll have a Rebel Scum group though. We'll figure. I know someone will know how to do that. We'll do that.
All right, sounds good. Until next time, scumbags, keep rebelling, and we'll see you soon.
Occupation!
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.